Okay, so I found the 2015 multiple choice. I'm going to try to do some of these. I'll do some tonight and some tomorrow. Okay, what is good about this is that it's the directions. Read them now, so you don't have to read them while you're taking the test. Okay, 50% percentile medium. Okay, here we're taking 20 from public school, 20 from private. That's stratifies. That's some from each. And then cluster is all from one. Okay, I remember having a test question on this. Whenever you convert anything from time to minutes, okay, it doesn't matter what you convert it to, the z-score is going to stay the same. So the answer is C. All right, so I suggest for this that you go back to chapter 13 and you review the definitions for all the biases. But I believe that non-response are people who were never given an opportunity, like, they would only call those who would have telephones, but then some of us don't have telephones. So the answer is D. Okay, so this is very similar to condition probability. Even though we have my population is teachers, right now what we're just going to do, we're going to look at the math teachers, and of those we want to see who teaches statistics. So because I got a 28% here, my new population now is the math teachers. Because remember, if it was the probability of statistics, given that they teach math. And so at the bottom would be math. So that's my population. So it's the math teachers who attended the conference. All right, this is interesting here. Let's look at this. First of all, we have all these distributions. I know that it's not uniform because then they all would have the same amount of frequency. So it's not uniform. And it's definitely not approximately normal, because if I was to sketch it, it would kind of be like this, okay? So it's not approximately normal. And let's look at bimodal. I only have one mode, so it's not bimodal. Do you see how it's skewed to the right? So the answer is B. Okay, let's talk about number 7. I think this is a trick question, and we need to refer to exactly what does a quartile mean. It means percent. So if I surveyed 200 people, that means 20% is between the minimum and Q1. 25. 25% is between Q1 and median. 25% is between median and Q3. And then 25% is between Q3 and maximum, 25%. Well, what is 25% of 200? It is 50. So each of these sections, fourths, have 50 people. It's just that their answers are either tightly close to each other or far apart. So they all have the same number of people. So the answer is D. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's talk about what a confidence interval is. Remember, it is estimate plus or minus margin of error. So I have 0.55 plus or minus 0.03. So if I do the math on that, I get 0.52 to 0.58. Now, what is interesting about these numbers is that we have two candidates. So if there was a tie or you couldn't make a conclusion, 50% would be in this interval. Do you see that 50% is not in this interval? So we can say that Taylor is the candidate. Okay, so I had to think about number 9. So let's look here at the red. You see, I know my mean is 33. I don't know what the standard deviation is. But we know that 35 is 1.2 standard deviations above the mean. And I want to know how many is left. So that is this area here. So this is how I did it. I went back and I did empirical rule. Remember, empirical rule is 68, 95, 99.7. So here 50%. So if I am one standard deviation of the mean, that is 68%. Okay, but I'm only looking about the right half. So half of 68 is 34. So this is 84%, which gives this, what, 16%? Okay, so let's go to two standard deviations, which is 95. So 95 divided by 2 is 47.5. If I add that to the 50%, see how I get 97.5? Which means that there's only 2% here. So my number has to be between 16 and 2. 2.5. And there's two of them here. 8 and 12. Okay, so it was 1.2. So 0.2 is closer to the 1, which is near the 16. So the answer is C. If somebody comes up with an easier way to figure this out, let me know. Okay, so let's go do this. And remember when we did this, we have mean, we have standard deviation, and I also asked you to find the variance. So I have x, so it's 120 and 15. So the variance be 225, because remember that's squared. And then I have y is 100, standard deviation is 9 and 81. So they want us to find the standard deviation. So the standard deviation of x minus y is equal to the square root of the variance of x minus y, which is equal to the square root of the variance of x plus y. So let's add these two up. So 225 plus 81. 225 plus 81, and I get 306. So the square root of 306. So I take the square root of that number, and I get 17.49, which is B.